The rain tapped a steady rhythm against the bay window of our Maplewood Colonial. The kind of house that screamed suburban perfection: red brick, emerald lawn, a pergola dripping with wisteria. I'd planted myself. Inside, the twins, Ethan and Sophie, were sprawled across the Levi-ing room rug, arguing over a half-finished Lego spaceship. Upstairs, Lily's piano notes floated down, a halting rendition of Clair de Lune. It was Tuesday, 9:23 a.m., April 17, 2024, and I was elbow-deep in laundry when everything I'd built over 16 years with James unraveled in my hands. I'd been gathering clothes for the dry cleaner: James's suits, the kids' school uniforms, my yoga pants, when I noticed his leather gym bag shoved behind a row of polished loafers in our walk-in closet. The zipper gaped open just enough to reveal a wrinkled dress shirt, one he'd supposedly worn to an emergency consult at St. Augustine's Hospital the night before. I tugged it free, expecting coffee stains or ink, something mundane. Instead, a smear of coral lipstick slashed across the collar, bright and accusing, a shade no surgeon would encounter in an operating room. My fingers froze around the cotton, the fabric trembling as my pulse roared in my ears. 16 years of marriage, 3 children, a life I'd sculpted to prop up his career as a renowned neurosurgeon. It all teetered on the edge of that single damning stain. James and I had been the golden couple of Oakwood Heights. Dear James Thornton, with his steady hands and quiet charisma, saved lives daily, while I, Laura Thornton, kept the home fires burning. PTA president, hostess extraordinaire, the woman who made his brilliance possible. Laura's my rock, he'd say at hospital galas, his arms snug around my waist, a glass of Pinot Noir glinting in the chandelier light. The other wives would nod, their smiles tight with envy. We had it all. A sprawling house, 3 beautiful kids, a marriage that had survived med school loans and sleepless residency nights. Or so I'd believed. Looking back, the signs had been there, faint cracks in the facade I'd papered over with optimism. James's late nights had multiplied over the past year. Hospital understaffing, he'd claimed. Weekend fishing trips with colleagues stretched longer, his phone buzzing incessantly with urgent cases. Our conversation shrank to logistics: Ethan's soccer practice, Sophie's science fair, Lily's recital schedule. Intimacy withered to a turn away from me in bed, citing exhaustion, leaving me staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd become invisible. I'd tried new lingerie, candlelit dinners, even a weekend getaway I'd planned for our anniversary. He'd gone through the motions, distracted, his eyes darting to his phone mid-meal. Everything okay? I'd asked one night over his untouched steak. Just tired, Laura. The Miller case is a mess, he'd muttered, retreating to his study, the door clicking shut behind him. I trusted him. Checking his phone or hacking his email felt beneath mesomething desperate women did. Not Laura Thornton, the unflappable wife. But our 16th anniversary loomed, and I'd wanted to surprise him with a trip to Sonoma, where we'd spent our honeymoon. His phone sat on the kitchen counter while he showered, and I picked it up to sync our calendars. One glance, that's all I meant to take. Then a text flashed across the screen from Dr. Elena Voss. Last night was incredible. When are you telling her? Can't wait to feel you again. My thumb hovered, then pressed, opening a thread that stretched back 9 months. Explicit messages, photos, plans made while I was shuttling Lily to ballet or helping Ethan with algebra. The cruelest jab. Laura's clueless, still planning some anniversary thing. Poor thing thinks you're hers. I set the phone down, made his coffee, kissed him goodbye as he left for the hospital, then collapsed over the sink, retching until my stomach was hollow. That night, after the kids were asleep, I confronted him in our bedroom, the same room where we'd whispered dreams of a family, where he'd held me through 2 miscarriages before we turned to IVF for the twins, where I'd sobbed when my mother died. Are you sleeping with Elena Voss? My voice was steady, a lifeline I clung to. He didn't flinch, just unbuttoned his shirt with surgical precision. Yes. How long? Does it matter? His eyes met mine, cold and unrecognizable. I want a divorce, Laura. I'm done with this. He waved a hand around the room like it was a cage. Done with us? With 16 years. The kids. My voice cracked despite my resolve. I've outgrown this, he said, his tone clinical, cutting. I'm 46. If I'm going to live my life, it's now. We built this together, James. I gave up my career teaching my masteress for you. He laughed, sharp and bitter. I save lives. You fold laundry and plan bake sales. I've carried us. You'll be fine financially, the kids will adapt. He slept in the guest room that night, levying a divorce lawyer's card on the counter by morning, a final scalpel slice to my dignity. The next day I hired Abigail Pierce, the sharpest divorce attorney in Oakwood Heights. Document everything, she instructed, her voice a steel blade over the phone. Especially the money. That night, after tucking the kids in with vague assurances about Daddy's work trip, I cracked open our safe. Tax returns, investment portfolios, property deeds, 16 years of our life in neat folders. Then I saw it. Monthly transfers from our joint SAVYNGS to Cedarvoy W Ventures, $6,000, $8,000, $12,000 totaling $300,000 over 3 years, funneled to an LLC in James's name alone. The bank confirmed it the next morning. No trace beyond Cedarvoy, a shell company he controlled. Hiding assets is common, Abigail said, peering at the statements over her desk. But this feels deliberate long-term. Dig deeper. Digging led me to Dr. Marcus Reed, a name Abigail dropped casually. He worked with James at St. Augustine's, left 4 years ago under a cloud. Might know something. I remembered Marcus, soft-spoken, awkward at galas, gone without explanation. James had brushed off my curiosity. Personality clash. Boring stuff. It took 6 calls to find him, now running a small clinic in rural Pine Hollow. His receptionist hesitated until I mentioned James. Then Marcus was on the line, his voice heavy. Laura, I've wondered when you'd call. We met at a diner halfway between our worlds. His face lined beyond his 42 years, gray streaking his temples. Over bitter coffee, he dismantled my reality. The fertility clinic at St. Augustine's had issues. He began, eyes fixed on his mug. Failed IVFs, falsified reports. I found discrepancies, lab results didn't match procedures. Dr. Harold Klein, the director, was cooking the books to boost success rates. When I pushed, he admitted James knew. More than knew helped. I gripped my latte, the warmth seeping into my shaking hands. We'd endured 4 IVF rounds, 2 for the twins, 2 for Lily, each failure a gut punch, each success a miracle. James wanted kids. We both did. Marcus slid a USB drive across the table. Records. Signatures. James authorized adjustment, swapped specimens, including yours. He has a genetic condition, familial epilepsy, mild in him but a 50-50 shot at passing it on. A neurosurgeon couldn't risk that stigma. The words hit like a freight train. So he replaced his sperm with donors. Marcus nodded. He knew every step. Controlled it. I left with the USB scorching my purse and a referral to a discreet DNA lab, my mind reeling. James hadn't just cheated, he'd rewritten our family's foundation. While James pushed the divorce, claiming I was unstable and unfit for custody, I played the part of the grieving wife. I smiled at school drop-offs, waved off questions about his absence, hospital hours, and collected DNA samples from the kids' hairbrushes and James's razor. The wait for results was torture, punctuated by his lawyer's threats and a settlement offer that would have left me scraping by. Then the email arrived, clinical and brutal. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father. Probability of paternity 0. Fantram. I printed copies, one for Abigail, one for a safe deposit box, one for the moment I'd confront him. My hands didn't shake anymore. Rage had forged something unyielding inside me. James thought he'd won. He paraded Elena at Lily's recital, moved her into his sleek new condo, smirked through mediation as I conceded to his terms. You're being so reasonable, Laura, he'd said, smug as ever. I just nodded, biding my time. Behind the scenes I hunted. Marcus connected me to other St. Augustine's IVF familias, 31 couples, 6 willing to talk. The Carpenters had twins with no resemblance to them. The Nguyen's son had unexplained seizures. The Pattersons, Lopez's and Kimball's echoed tales of miracle pregnancies after Klein's special attention. Then I found Rachel Holt, a former clinic nurse turned whistleblower, levying in a cluttered duplex with stacks of files. I documented it all, she said, handing me a worn ledger: patient names, altered procedures, James's signature greenlighting specimen swaps, including mine, specimen replaced per Dr. Thornton's directive: genetic risk mitigation. Why didn't you report it? I asked. I tried. Hospital buried it. James has allies everywhere. Rachel gave me a card for Agent Carla Mendez, a healthcare fraud investigator who'd been circling St. Augustine's for 2 years. Your Evy Denke could break this open, Carla told me over coffee, her eyes sharp. But I need more money trails, insider testimony. I became a ghost in my own life, nodding through custody talks while photographing James's files, recording his casual lies, tracing Cedar VW Ventures to offshore accounts. Then a PI uncovered Elena's past. Elena Marie Kessler, daughter of Patricia Kessler, a patient James lost 5 years ago during a botched aneurysm repair. He'd been hungover from a weekend with Elena, then a med student, when he operated. The hospital hushed it up, paid off the family, blamed Patricia's undisclosed meds. Elena's father died a year later, broken. She'd changed her name, climbed into James's orbit, her affair a slow burn revenge. I almost admired her until I remembered the kids she'd never know weren't his. St. Augustine's annual gala loomed, James slated for the Pinnacle Award, ironic, given his ethical excellence. I fed Carla's case financial docs, Rachel's ledger, patient affidavit while planning my own strike. I recorded James during a pickup, steering him to the IVF lie. The twins have your smile, I said lightly. Good genes, he replied, distracted. Ever worry about epilepsy passing on? His jaw tightened. Reed's full of shit. I tested them years ago, they're fine. Without telling me? I'm their father, Laura. My call. The tape caught it all: his admission, his arrogance. It was the last piece Carla needed. Gala night arrived, the sky bruised with storm clouds. I wore a midnight blue gown, elegant, understated, a contrast to Elena's scarlet dress, the hue of that lipstick stain. James glowed as he accepted the award, preaching about trust and ethics, Elena beaming beside him. He didn't know the board had met hours earlier, Carla's Denke flipping their world. As he toasted his triumph at Lorenzo's sour old haunt, I walked in, the DNA results in a silver envelope. Laura. His smirk faltered. Joining us. Elena shifted, uneasy. I wouldn't miss it, I said, sliding the envelope across. Congrats on your freedom. He opened it, his face collapsing as he read. This is fake, he hissed. Is it? You swapped your sperm, James. Lied about our kids. Elena gaped. What? Nothing, he snapped. I turned to her. Ask him about your mom, Elena Kessler. The surgery he botched. Her eyes widened, recognition, then fury. Carla stepped in, badge flashing. Dr. Thornton, you're under arrest: fraud, malpractice, conspiracy. The restaurant froze as cuffs clicked. You set me up, James snarled. 16 years, James. You had your run. They hauled him out, Elena staring into her wine, whispering, I didn't know about the kids. I believe you, I said. Your mom deserved better too. The fallout was seismic: headlines, lawsuits, the clinic shuttered. James faced decades in prison. His assets were seized, securing the kids' future. Marcus asked me to co-lead a new ethics board at St. Augustine's, a chance to reclaim my voice. Months later, I met Elena again, an odd truce between us. Regrets? She asked. The kids will learn the truth, I said. But it's my truth now, not his. That night, watching Ethan, Sophie, and Lily sleep, I felt free, not from pain but from the lie. The perfect life was gone. What remained was mine to shape.